What is up, dudes and dudettes? This is Dude here, and then today we're gonna talk a little bit about Thanksgiving earnings. Okay, yeah, Thanksgiving do have earnings. Just because we have a Thanksgiving break doesn't mean that every company will just go, stop and stop operating. There's no earning or blah 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 blah. Even on a Thanksgiving day, there are companies who report their earnings. But usually there are a lot of like overseas companies that Thanksgiving doesn't really affect them that much. As far as how this week's gonna go. And usually how this week is going to go is, let's just say that because of the current economic situation, this week isn't going to be that great. And if you are a trader that trade heavily on earnings, this week's earning isn't going to give you a clear guideline on whether you should enter or exit the market. Because if you go look at, I don't know what kind of screeners you guys use. I have my personal screener. All of you guys use FinViz and other things. On FinViz, you can see a lot of insider report. And then what I did is I created a scraper and look at, the buying and selling volume of insiders. Turned out that selling volume of insiders over the past few weeks, including today, is way higher than buying volume. That means institutional investors, including insiders and big funds, they're pulling out their capital out of the market. Therefore, even though when you have Zoom, you have key sites who their earnings are okay, we still see a very sharp drawdown today on Zoom and keys. If you look at this, earnings are actually fine. If you look at today's earning report, it beats earning estimate about 11% actually. I actually really like this company, Keysight Tech, but then because the general economic situation right now, other than the big fans are going up, everything else is just bleeding right now. So it actually went down. And if you are looking into to buy in the stock, it probably will go down to around like 189.63, and you can buy a small position, and it will probably gonna shoot up about $1 or $2, and you can do a short-term burst right here. Again, we're not financial advisors. We do not give financial advices, right? For today's another earning is Zoom. Again, I always think that Zoom is a little bit overvalued until it reaches back to about the 230 line. I don't know what really is going to happen with the stock. Again, it beats the earnings a little bit, just a little bit. And because the entire COVID, stock trend is actually going down, except for Pfizer. And again, we're still in Pfizer. We do think that Pfizer can get to $55. But at the same time, the general COVID trend is uncertain because when, I'll make this into another video about the COVID trend. But again, Zoom is not really doing so hot right now. And if you go look at new, it actually missed the earning estimate. That's why you see this sharp drawdown here. If you want to buy cheap of new and maybe do some short-term burst trade, it's probably a better idea to see what the volume is saying tomorrow. If the volume sees a little bit green, then you can actually buy some small positions, and it will probably pull up to like 2087 to 21. If it actually is still going down a big candle red, then it probably is a good idea to wait a little bit, wait 1 or 2 days, and then buy in a little bit cheaper around like 1877-ish, and you will see a $1 pull up. Tuesday, again, market's gonna be closed on Thursday, and market's gonna close early on Friday. Therefore, you will see a lot of volume coming in on Wednesday when people are really afraid that things gonna go to the very hellish territory on Friday. Therefore, they might pull out. Or if we see another oversold situation tomorrow, then we will probably see some buying volume coming in by the end of Wednesday. So again, Tuesday, we don't really have a lot of good earnings stock going on. I mean, if you look at this, Dell is going to have an earning, and if you go look at Dell, it actually got pre-corrected before the earning coming out, actually. We see a pre-correction around, November 3rd and everything. But again, usually on Thanksgiving, Dell sells a lot of laptops, so it probably should go well, and it probably should break the $57 mark. But if insiders keep selling in Dell, what really happens in Dell is insiders actually keep selling, and then the general economic environment isn't that great. You see this huge 50% correction. And if you look at how Dell works, this huge gap actually doesn't really justify itself. But because we see a general file sell situation going on here, therefore a $42 is probable, but not really that possible. But if it actually reaches $45 or $42, it's actually a really good buying point for Dell. And I honestly even think if you just have some cash lying around, it probably would be a very interesting idea to buy in some Dell. And you know, in terms of like a year-end projection, probably it's gonna reach $60 again. So it should be interesting. Another thing we want to look at is on Wednesday, there's a thing called Futu. So Futu is a Chinese stock or a Chinese company that engages in so a little background about Futu, right? So you cannot really directly buy in US equity or US bond market, US commodity in China. So firms like Tiger, firms like Futu, what they do is they help these they help investors set up accounts and they trade through them. And because the NASDAQ is going so well right now, a lot of people actually created, you know, accounts with Futu. So I honestly think when Futu's earnings out, the investor will see that, hey, it's actually pretty undervalued right now if you look at Futu, okay? But again, the general economy is doing not so hot, so probably will correct back to 49. If it go back to 49, probably it's gonna be a good idea to buy some long-term options at $50 strike. Because we expect more and more people is going to trade US stock instead of Chinese stock, because the Chinese stock is actually just trading flat forever for a long period of time. What about Thursday? Thursday, a lot of these, you know, forecasting and everything is very insignificant per se. We have TAO for those of you who are in the, you know, EDU market or the Chinese tutoring market, or EVO, right? If you are sort of looking into relevant companies that sort of MetaMature related. But other than that, Thursday is going to be a very quiet day because you cannot trade anyways. And on Friday, people's going to react to Thursday earnings a little bit. And then we see a big giant PDD coming out, the earnings coming out. I honestly don't think PDD is going to have a really good time in terms of like having a good earning. This season. They probably will have a good earning next season, next quarter. Why? Because Chinese New Year is coming, and whenever Chinese New Year coming, people buys a lot of stuff. Okay, and it's if I were you, I probably will stay away from BABA PDD until like a month before Chinese New Year, and usually it's a really good time to buy in, no matter what the economic situation is. And depending on how the legislative branch works in China, which just means how Uncle Xi sees, you know, the economic trajectory of US dollars, they might put out some very interesting guidelines for RMB appreciation or depreciation, and we can start buying in or selling or, you know, buying puts basically on Chinese stocks after those guidelines come out mid-January, after the international New Year, before the Chinese New Year. All right, this is it for this week's earning guidance. If you guys love these earning sort of guidance videos that I will go into some of the individual stocks, smash a like button and leave a comment down below. Be like, Didi, I love those kind of contents. Keep making this kind of contents online, and I will do so. And this year our goal is to reach 2,000 sub by, you know, the end of this year. So if you can sub and like this video, it will help us a lot. Thank you so much, and see you guys on the upside.